I guess I didn't say because I was trying to figure this out. Is family ever been contacted?
Yeah, we do the, yes. Short answer, yes. Long answer, we're going to do this part first. And then I'll tell you. So we'll start kind of like your priority, and I'll try to answer your best questions best I can, because I know there's going to be a gazillion things they want to know. And then we'll get to kind of talk about before we do anything else. Water, coffee, good? All right. So what are you doing? We already became. Are you leaving and ask if you want to answer our questions and stuff? Okay.
You're on the approach.
This is right for me this time.
Okay, members of the jury, it's my understanding that the audio is at the maximum level. Can you hear? Can the jury members hear? Let the record reflect that they're nodding yes. And the audio will stay up as much as it can during the entire time.
Anything you say can be used against you for you have a right to talk to a lawyer for advice before a question, and then have them with you during questions. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you. And if you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you still have the right to stop answering questions. I kind of like add a little bit to that on my own. If you decide to start talking to us and answering questions, and I ask you a question and you want to answer, you kind of want to continue talking, just say, I don't want to answer. You're do you understand ancient threats? Yes. You can write yes next to this. And that's what your initial attack. And understanding these rights, are you willing to answer a question? Yes. And write yes next to that. So yes. Initial that. So just initial, sign in. It's so your girls are at Cheshire Medical, which is down here in affiliated with government. And my understanding is that Caitlyn's aunt, Brenda, assuming DC, so DC where I fit in here, you're from Minnesota, right?
I'm working, yes.
In New Hampshire, DC where I fit like Department of Children, Youth, and Families. So they're kind of like CPS, whatever it is in Minnesota, Child Protection Services. So that at this point, they kind of like review everything. They actually have some questions that I want to ask you too. Just want to myself and people probably and stuff like that. They kind of step in because of what's going on. And then they always try to get the girls to some kind of, whether it's family in Minnesota or family here in New Hampshire. Brenda is probably the closest that I would assume. So she's kind of been contacted or in contact with us. So that's kind of like plan A at this point, assuming PCOF is okay with everything. It sounds like Brenda will be kind of agree with the situation. Is that a good option for now?
For now. I guess how this goes, can I just ask questions whenever? Does that matter?
That's what I want. Yeah. Well, I'm very easy, as you probably figured out.
Yeah. Well, I was asked, there, I guess, did someone contact the police? For how it happened?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Say who?
Yeah. So what happened was at like 4 a.m. this morning, on the neighborhood, statewide, it will be after 4 a.m. And that's somebody reached out to you.
No, I meant,
The Berlin.
no, I meant, how did police know anything even happened?
Yeah, they don't know. The Berlin police went to the house apartment, and that's, from there, I don't know how they got home, from other neighbors.
Well,
But
I was asking for a reason, but
yeah, I don't know.
I guess I'll say, for just family, kind of one of the things was I want to make sure that my mom was aware. And that was kind of, that was my preference. So I just wanted to make sure that my mom knew that the kids were here.
Where's your mom?
She's amazing.
It's 2024, I couldn't tell you phone number off the top of my head. You know where
I
that's
don't
from.
know. It's in my phone. Yeah.
Where is your phone?
It's
Kiki.
at the scene.
What's your mom's name? D-E-O-R-A-H.
D-E-B-R-A.
Same last name. So, do the kids have a primary care in New Hampshire? Yeah.
No, I literally, I was supposed to have
What hospital? Or where?
because well, we'll probably get into this because I'm assuming you're going to want like an entire walkthrough. We lived in Nevada before here.
Minnesota, Nevada, and New Hampshire.
So Minnesota, Minnesota was never really the picture. I've been in Nevada. I mean, it's in the picture, I guess. We've been in Nevada for the past. Well, she was in Nevada, and well, all of us were in Nevada for the past 4 to 5 years. But I lived there before that.
Okay.
And then, I guess we can get into more of the details, but anyways, the kids had Medicaid there. And so what I was doing here was trying to, so I had to cancel the Medicaid in Nevada, and then I had a phone call for them getting set Medicaid here today, but obviously.
Kids born in Nevada? Both?
The Halloween, the 4-year-old, was actually born in Minnesota, but then left when she was 6 months, about 6 months. And they lived
Different names, what's the background of the names? Yeah. What like, does there mean? Just like,
that's not really,
just like names. They're different names. They're very different. I like them both. I love the name. How about like any health concerns with girls? So because of what happened, because of the way the girls came to the hospital, there's a lot of questions. And I think the highlight questions are, do they have any injuries that they're aware of? Any poisoning or access, anything like that? They're totally healthy as far as you know. How about like allergies? else like medically that they may be concerned about. Totally healthy. What did they order? Did you get it?
Oh, they were, okay, I can't remember, was it you that came to the door? Okay, well, no. Oh, no, I had, well, I guess.
I'm sure they've eaten by now. And I'll be all food, but.
Yeah, and they ate, yeah, I mean, they had been eating, this was more so, I think I probably know more detail on it, but, because I was actually already in New York, but I turned around because I didn't want to, I ended up deciding that I wanted to, like, keep this muscle right here, and action. And then, yeah, then I thought I'll try to eat breakfast. And I was actually coming
Talk.
somehow. And I didn't notice when I was driving through Keene, I was like, I saw the Chili's, and then I saw the police department right there, and I was like, I go to Chili's, everybody is sitting right there. My hope was that what I wanted to do, in which I will say everything was very professional. So I'm very appreciative of that. Because I just didn't want to get caught like what happened, because I didn't want anything crazy to happen to the kids there. Like, I wanted to kind of walk in and be like, hey, here's the kids, like, we're seeing the kids.
It worked out okay, I guess.
I guess, I mean, obviously my biggest thing is that I can eventually, like, well, we did the tsunami, but we did a long time after that, whatever, so yeah, I was like, it's just,
Do you know a lot more about what's going on in the last day or two than I do? I'm saying that because I'm probably going to ask you a lot of stupid questions that you would assume I will already know. But that's not.
So just turn this back around because the cancellation of the Amber were actually just turned off my recorder. Just background to that. Yeah, so that's kind of like that. That's what I woke up to at 4 in the morning. I don't know if you saw it. It's just something that, in this case, actually, is pretty useful. It's safe, right? So I apologize for that. But it's a bit control. So we started to kind of talk a little bit, and I was saying that I'm going to ask you some questions, and you've heard of it. You should know this already, there are no questions. My day kind of changed a little bit after COVID happens. But I was going to ask, both Elowen and Valen are your daughters, but also Caitlyn's daughter. Caitlyn's daughter. So that was one question. When did you move to?
so I got here, and specifically, it's just because that's what works for the budget. When I was working, I got, basically, I got it done in place. And that's just what I got. And again, I don't know if you're gonna want to hold me up. Like, you know,
Whatever works for you. Whatever works for you.
because Caitlyn, because we had done it once, and I brother and his son was to be, so,
That's very easy. Well, let's start with moving in.
so a couple of years ago, she had been talking about how she she didn't want to be in that. And I actually do love that idea of music. But that's not what I said. Saying, okay, and where do we convince me on what place? Well, I mean, what place would be? And she kind of here, and so that's what she talked about, and just for, and yeah, so this got me on that, and yeah, it started catching my attention. And then, like, as we were kind of exploring some different states of where to, kind of get connected. And then, from there on, it's a little bit of tangent, but if you want, I'm sure it's good music, so yeah, just goes. So then we had agreed, okay, yeah, sure. And then, so we got fully prepared. This was, so our lease was up in late July or August of just this past year, 23. And so the lease was up, and then when we started getting pods shipped, to get all her stuff right to New Hampshire, then she decided, without telling me, that she ordered her own pods and then got our stuff and shipped them to Minnesota. I guess, because I guess I should say, I should be clear on this, that prior to that happening, of her ordering her own pods, and she took pretty much 90% of all her stuff. So prior to that happening, like we had problems, but that was like legitimately the first time I yelled at it. And I feel like that's
kind of two different pages.
but so like even if we had issues, it was I'm very big on I've always been very strong on their family raising kids. So with all problems, I was trying to just say, okay, it doesn't matter. I just suck up my pride and it's for the kids. So this is not anything new. But anyways. So anyways, that happened to where so all our stuff went to Minnesota, and I obviously the plan was to go to New Hampshire, and that was without her saying anything. The moment I knew was when the pods like were actually there, and that was when I confirmed this. And then shortly after, she took our 1-year-old without me knowing. She didn't say anything. She took the stroller. She was going to the park. That was nearby. Which was the kids. The park all the time. And so she took the stroller and just left when she walked in the park. I didn't think too much of it. But then it was like several hours later, and they hadn't returned, and so I got into the park, and they weren't there. And then I was trying to call, what is going on? And she was at the airport, already taking her home and bringing her to Minnesota. And I ended up like driving to the airport trying to keep everyone informed, so like my family and her family. So when that happened, I talked to my parents, I talked to her parents, and like, what is going on? I regret not just staying in Nevada. I know that was my first mistake, because if I just stayed in Nevada and talking to our family lawyers, I kind of lost power because I followed her to Minnesota. I ended up talking to her family and my family, and everyone kind of convinced me that, you know, I'd like keep the kids together because I saw an element. Basically, like, you just keep the kids together, just come back to Minnesota, we're all here, and then we can figure stuff out, and then we can continue on to just come back here, I guess I just clarification of how, like, I had no idea that she left with the at the time. All of her stuff was still, I kept all the picture of it. All of her stuff was still everywhere, all the times. So she didn't even take anything, she didn't move anything, she just, so anyways, I followed to Minnesota. I tried to make things work. There was a lot of fighting. She was very aggressive about, she is the mom, and she has all the rights. And so it was getting to a point to where she was deciding to keep the kids away from me. And got into a bunch of different stuff. I've been talking to them about where I am and so where. But they're kind of explaining, like, the UCC, JD, from custody is so where they're at is Caitlyn, here's New Hampshire. You say something that's all my interactions. So yeah, drive's great, Dustin Duren, that's spot, secure. Something I mean, we did the 23rd, so it's pretty sure.
Your Honor, noting the time is 12:15, and this might be a good place to stop.
Okay. All right, so we will continue with the playing of the video after the lunch break. Hey, good afternoon, thank you. Please be seated.
Your Honor, for the record, the state will resume playing State's Exhibit 26A for presentation purposes.
Thank you.
The plan for her was to fly out with a 1-year-old. But this is part of the beginning of the issues that she was running into all sorts of money problems, and I definitely did not have a good income. I mean, I was basically pretty much fully, I get community disability, and I'm basically fully working off of my community disability. And so I didn't have money, especially with the move, which I have a spreadsheet of all of my finances, including the total cost of the move, and it is almost $5,000. And that includes the first round and the security fund. But anyways, I had to go further in debt just to get that move going. But then I felt like, oh, okay, obviously once I just get settled in, then I get stabilized and to work. But anyway, she kept asking for more and more money, and I actually, this started when we were in Minnesota too. She kept asking for money. Right away, this would have been like August or September, I don't remember. But right away, she wanted $2,000 a month, in which there's no chance that I could have done that at the time.
Which you didn't deserve.
Yes. Because again, so basically from July, August, till now, basically, I had like a few $100 more, but I was basically working fully off of the disability. And so obviously 2,000 a month, that's, yeah, there's no chance I could have done that. But she just like kept threatening, well, okay, I'm going to take the kids away and none of that. And so I tried, basically, to like placate her, I was sending her like whatever I could. So I remember like right away when she sent me, or when she was yelling at me about sending 2,000 every month to her, that, because again, there's no chance I could do that. But I ended up sending her 500, and then just every month it was basically the same things of her wanting more money with threats of taking the miles away. And I couldn't do that. And there was a few times, like I was sending, I don't remember the exact amounts, but I'm sure they can be looked up, but I would send like $100 one month and like $200 another month. And, anyways, so I guess, yeah, I forgot because I went on a tangent. I do that a lot. But because what were we talking about? The New Hampshire?
Yep, you had moved to New Hampshire on January 23rd. She began asking for 2,000 a month, and then threatening to take.
But that was, when she asked for 2,000 a month, that was August or September, when we first got to Minnesota.
And then you paid whatever you could.
Yes. But yeah, up to New Hampshire, up to now. Once I got to New Hampshire, then she got very aggressive about how she was going to keep Valen in Minnesota unless I started paying her money. And she got into a whole thing, and it got really bad when we had a phone call to where she was yelling that she was going to have me arrested, and she was just straight up lying about I would like to remember exactly what our phone call was before I started guessing. But anyways, she was basically threatening to like put me in prison and take the kids away and all this stuff, and I did not bite. I just was saying I'm not gonna play these games. And the conversation just ended, and I was reaching out to her family. I was talking to her, I guess a little bit more details. Her dad is her adopted dad, and he's in a different relationship, and then her mom is in a different relationship. But I kept in touch with both of them, and this is something I did the entire time. So these past like year, really, I have been in contact with both of them, both the families, trying to talk everything out, because my conversations with Caitlyn would never go anywhere, and so I was trying to get her family to help out. But anyway, so I talked to both of their families and saying kind of what was going on. By that time, Caitlyn had stopped talking to her mom altogether and told me not to talk to her mom. However, I did reach out to her mom after she like threatened to arrest me and stuff and take me away. But I had also been talking to her dad about it. But she doesn't tell anyone anything. So even when her dad tried to, he went to her where she was staying, the house that she was staying. And I was basically just trying to ask him, hey, can you check on Valen? Because I wasn't seeing Valen. So basically like, hey, is Valen okay? And he went over there, and apparently Valen was just sleeping, and then he didn't ask to see Valen. And then he just didn't push it either, because she wouldn't tell him anything, and he didn't push the subject. So and this is in text, but he just basically texted back to me saying, like, yeah, she just doesn't tell me anything. So he just texted me, hey, I went over there, Valen was asleep, so we didn't see her. And then I was basically saying, oh, so she didn't say anything, but like nothing was happening. Like she did just have this explosive argument. And he said, no, and I'm not getting it, obviously, and the text will show what exactly his words were, but he basically just said, if she doesn't tell me anything. But after I had reached back out to my Minnesota lawyer, because I was really afraid that something would start, that she would try to lie about something. I guess I'll say in general, well, again, I don't remember, like, don't quote me specifically on this, but where it would, the big thing that she was lying about on our phone call was that I had taken Eloise to New Hampshire without her permission, which is not true whatsoever. We didn't actually sign anything, which I actually did have a conversation with her about it, and I had talked to some other people, because obviously that would help. But I also felt like so many people knew the situation. There were so many people that we had been talking to, and again, her dad was at this meeting that we had in October where we were kind of talking about this, and she hadn't agreed to it and everything. So I felt like that, even without any sort of written thing, that just wouldn't hold up in court. But anyways, so, and now I forgot where I was originally at with that. With her.
It was just the dad check on Caitlyn. Leading up to, I think, I'm not sure when Caitlyn moves to New Hampshire or comes to New Hampshire, but that's
yeah. I was talking about to where I was reaching out to this same Minnesota attorney that I've been talking to previously. I reached out to her again and was saying, hey, I think, like, she's gonna try and pull something. Like, and this is where I was going, because I was afraid that she was gonna lie to police or whoever, and I was gonna have some, like, raid on the house randomly, which I would hope that no one would do, because you would do like some sort of due diligence instead of just like randomly taking someone's word and then coming to a house. But I did actually call the Berlin Police Department too, because my lawyers, I was asking again my lawyer, like, hey, should I like give the police a heads up and be like, yo, there's a civil thing going on and she's trying to make some stuff up. So I did actually call the Berlin Police Department. And
I'm just curious. It's not totally relevant. I'm just curious. So you come here on January 23rd. When did you call Berlin Police? Do you remember what month?
I
don't want to assume, but it sounds like it's after several months of making some payments. Is that accurate?
No, I mean, we've only been here for
Just
a
January.
month.
Yeah. Usually you don't remember what you call just to give them a hand.
Like 2 weeks ago, I don't know. Because all this stuff, like again with the Berlin Police Department, like that, obviously the call logs, it's going to have that. Now, I don't even know if you can get the actual voice calls.
No.
Okay, yeah. But you can at least see the call log that I did call the Berlin Police Department, whatever it is.
And all the text messages.
Yes. But anyways, but they said anyways, like, hey, we would get involved anyways. But anyways, whatever. But I talked to the lawyer. The big issue though was that I just didn't have money, and so the lawyer wanted a retainer, obviously, $4,000, and I was trying to figure out how to get $4,000. Because my thought was, okay, like this is gonna go to court, because if she's gonna refuse to bring Caitlyn here, like this is shot. Like, I have to figure out how to get this retainer. But then, because the move, I had, like, I got a credit card to help with the move. And so my credit was dipping. And I tried to go to like the credit union right in Berlin. And I did apply there to try and get 4,000, and they actually denied me, and it was mainly just because of my income, because I didn't show any income outside of the previous movie. But they denied me, and I was like, really, I didn't want to sell my car. I knew my car's paid off. But I did not want to sell my car, so I was really trying to figure out like how to pay for some of this stuff without selling my car. But after having conversations with like getting back to her dad and saying, oh, like she didn't say anything, she's like apparently everything's just fine. Then I texted her, so again, this is on the text, where I was like, I guess part of her argument to where, again, to where this big one, to where she was like, threatening to arrest me or whatever, to where she was asking for more money, but part of that too was that she wanted to put both the kids on her taxes. And all I said, and that sucks that you can't get the voice calls, but hopefully over time my word will hold some weight. But I forgot what I was saying. The voice call.
Yeah, I think she was.
Oh, yeah, to where she wanted to put both the kids on her taxes. And I was thinking about it for a minute, and again, like I will say, I was not biting on her, like overly aggressive, like I'm gonna arrest you. I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm not playing these games. But basically what she said on, I'm gonna, because that's how definitely she put it, she's going to put the kids on her taxes. That made me second guess because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if there was something like, would that give leverage in my custody or something like that? So on the phone call, I literally just said, I didn't even say no. I just said, well, let me get back to you because I'm not sure. Like, I openly said, fine, you can claim Caitlyn, but like Evelyn's with me right now. She was like, you left her in Nevada. Like I had her most of the time in Minnesota. So my initial thought was, well, if there's something like custody-wise, I don't want to agree to anything right now. And so I literally just said, well, let me look into it. But anyways, obviously, she knew about that. But now going back to after I had heard her dad telling me, oh, like she was acting like nothing different had been happening. Then I texted her saying, will you bring Valen out here if I just agree to you putting Alvin and Valen on your taxes? And she just simply put yes. And so then I was like, okay. So she agreed to do it. By the way, I did pay for her plane ticket. That's probably, she bought, this is probably an important part of it, she bought the plane ticket already, she did. And then I Venmoed her the So she texted me like the receipt when I then wanted her the amount for the ticket. So that obviously that would be another part of like evidence of how like I wasn't like coercing her to do this, like she did this stuff and then so it wasn't like, well, whatever.
Was it not a round trip? I'm just curious.
Yes.
So she was planning on to go back.
Yes. And yes, that is important. And well, obviously,
For both?
you can, what's that?
For both her and Caitlyn, round trip?
Well, I think because she's won, she doesn't need a ticket.
Okay.
Just right on that.
I always forget that too, because it's, but anyway. Okay.
So yeah. But anyways, so yeah, and again, this is all in texts. I texted her that, and this was after like a week of no contact. I basically just texted her, hey, will you still bring Caitlyn out here if you, or if I say yes to you putting both the kids on taxes? And she just, one word, yes. So I said, okay, and then we continued to try and plan. And this was another text that is going to be very relevant, but, and yet actually I can't remember what she had texted previously. It'd be kind of useful to have this stuff, but somehow the conversation, the text conversation, got into like what were her plans of being here, like what was she trying to do, and I texted something along the lines of, I'm assuming that you're going to want to stay at the house for at least a few days, and this was because I'm like, well, why would you come here and not want to see the element or whatever, and she then texted, no, I don't want to, and then again, you can look at the text, so I'm going to refer to the text, so I'm not going to be, my memory isn't going to be perfect, but it was something along the lines of, no, I don't want to feel trapped there at your house, and so I just said, okay, because that made it super simple for me. Like, that means that all she wants to do is just drop off Aylin and leave. And I'm like, perfect. So then that was always the plan. Now, going forward to, I guess I'm going to 27th when she got here. It's 27th, Tuesday.
I can't look at my phone. So 28th, this is week or so 29th was Thursday.
Yeah. So I believe Tuesday was the 27th, which is when she flew in here. She was then texting me about how, and I don't know how much to actually talk about because I don't know what's even relevant or what even matters. But I'll say it just my thought process is like everything is relevant. But anyways, she had texted, I think on the 27th or on the 26th, so Monday or Tuesday, about how she now had to pay for transportation and food and all this stuff, and so she wanted money. And this is a text. So my response was just, well, I don't have money to send you, and my text was basically something along the lines of, I was trying to save a couple $100. I think I did say $200. I was trying to save $200 just for when Valen got here, and so I could get her like whatever she needs. So it was like stuff like, because the house has floorboard heaters, and so stuff like, well, I probably need to get like a barrier for the floor heaters so she can get in front of it. It was like stuff like that, or like food for her. So I was like, well, I wanted to try and make sure that I had $200, and I was like, I can send you $100. If that will make a difference, I will send you $100. And she did say, okay, so I sent her $100. And then, so I didn't hear anything on Tuesday, which I wasn't planning to, but then on Wednesday, we're supposed to be when we're meeting up for her to drop off Faith. Brenda lives in Hampton, which was where, so Caitlyn flew into Boston. I'm assuming Brenda picked her up from the airport. I don't actually know. But I'm assuming she picked her up from the airport in Boston and then brought her to Hampton. Again, I'm assuming she wasn't staying with Brenda. I shouldn't even say that. I don't even know if she was staying with Brenda. She might have been staying out in one of her properties, because I think she has a couple, seasonal properties. So that's why I'm assuming she was staying at around Guilford. But anyway, so that's obviously that's like over 3 hours from Berlin, Hampton to Berlin. And so I was basically, and then I got this little text, I was basically saying like, well, okay, well, let's try and be in the middle, because I don't really want to drive 6 hours and whatever. And so I basically picked a spot pretty much right in the middle. I don't know, is that Alcina?
Possibly.
Alcina?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, we agreed to meet at Harley Jack's.
We're a ways from there, but yeah, we can figure it out.
Yeah, it was just like just a restaurant that was like right on 16.
Okay.
Because obviously that's what I was trying to be like, well, okay, let's try and meet somewhere in the middle, so it was like an hour and a half drive for both of us. So then, but I was texting her, like, trying to get her questions of like, well, okay, so Brenda's driving you there, and then she said that Brenda was just dropping her off, and then that made me text like, well, okay, and again, these are in the text, to where I then was asking like, well, okay, is she picking you up afterwards? And she just never responded to that. But I was just immediately confused. Like, is she just going to leave and then come back? Because that doesn't make any sense. Because, like, why would you leave, drive an hour and a half back to Hampton, and then what? Like, are we planning to be at the restaurant for like 5 hours? No. But anyways, but she never responded to that. I got there. She then texted that something had happened to the washer and dryer or something like that, and so they're like an hour late, which was fine. I was just there, we just were hanging out, I was just hanging out at a restaurant. Then she got dropped off. She called me to come outside when she got dropped off, so I never even saw Brenda. She just got dropped off, and I came out to the front of the restaurant. She had Valen's, she had a couple bags of Valen's stuff. And she said, hey, here's this stuff, like, basically saying she didn't want to bring it inside, so I should just take it and put it in the trunk. So that's what I did, just grab the stuff and put it in the trunk, and then he went inside and just ate. And obviously, I hadn't seen Valen in like over a month at that point. And she had obviously not seen Ellen, and so we basically, there wasn't much conversation between Caitlyn and I. It was more so like, I'm just super excited to see Valen, and that was just kind of that was where my head was. And then after a while, she started, which is something she does because she doesn't want to talk to me, so she'll talk to our kids, like, with me there. And so she was like, hey, should I come to your house? Like asking Ellen that. And immediately, I was like, and again, obviously, none of this would have happened if I followed my gut. But I immediately was like, this feels like a bad idea. Because this was never part of the plan. She specifically said she did not, and again, it's in the text, that she did not want to come to the house because she didn't want to feel trapped. But anyways, I immediately I was not happy about it. But, and I started asking, like, well, where's Brenda? Like, is she not coming back to pick you up? And she was just saying no. And I just decided, like, okay, if she just wants to come here, see the place, and then, like, stay the night, I guess, with the kids, fine. But she was not going to stay there any longer than that. So we went back. I drove her up to the place. Then everything was fine that night. I set up, because before my pods, the remainder of our stuff, I had pods from Nevada. Before I had that shipped out, I got an air mattress for Ellen. I just slept on, so I had an air mattress. So that night, which would have been Wednesday night, then she stayed the night there, filled up that air mattress, and everything was fine. Again, we didn't talk much. It was just like, again, I was just happy to have Ellen there. And what I would assume is that she was happy to be with Ellen. The next day, though, I kept asking, and I should say this too, the previous night, when I was saying, like, basically whenever I was asking about, hey, like, is Brenda gonna come and get you, or like, what's the plan? She would never answer that question. And so that night, I didn't push it, because I really didn't want to. Because it's like, it's difficult to deal with her. So I just let the night be, and the following day, I started asking her, hey, when's Brenda come and pick you up? And she was, at first, just refusing to answer. Like, she wouldn't do anything. She would just go into the kids' room and just, like, play with the kids. And so I would just be, like, literally, like, standing at the door, like, is Brenda picking you up? Like, what are you doing? And she just wouldn't answer. And I was very calm the entire time, just every, like, 15 minutes, being like, hey, what's the plan? And eventually she just started saying that she wasn't going to leave. And then we got into a conversation of, no, you texted, you didn't even want to be here in the first place, and I don't want you here. I didn't plan for this. Like, we have, like, me and the kids, whatever. Like, we weren't planning on you even being here in the first place. Like, I don't want you here. And then she just said, no, I'm staying here and I'm not leaving. And that went on the entire day of her refusing to leave. And as it escalated more and more, she started getting more and more aggressive about how, no, I'm gonna take the kids away from you, I'm gonna call the cops, I'm gonna get you arrested, all this stuff. And then, obviously, as things got more and more aggressive, if you can tell by kind of my demeanor, I'm a very calm person. I think everyone can ask anyone. I'm a very calm person. It takes a lot to get me riled up. But that is the one thing, and there is definitely a lot more to my emotional attachment to the kids, but that is the one thing that does set me off, is like these continued threats of taking the kids away from me. And it was just getting to the point to where just the entire day of me trying to be like, you cannot be here, call Brenda. And I didn't have Brenda's number. And I was literally thinking that like I need to text someone to try and get Brenda's number so I can talk to her. Try and be like, hey, you need to come get her. But yeah, I didn't have her number and I just didn't get to that. But yeah, it just got to the point to where she kept doing that. And then I guess for what obviously we're all here about, there was probably a good half an hour up to where she grabbed Elowen. I was not letting Elowen go. I had taken Valen and put her in her car seat and was like, no, we need to go. And I was like, I don't even care if Brenda comes here or not. Like, I will drive you 3 hours down to Hampton. I do not care, but we're gonna leave. We cannot be here anymore. And then again, it was just the progressive, like, whatever, her just again threatening to take the kids. Saying that, yeah, she just wasn't gonna leave, and then she was gonna take Valen and I went back to Minnesota, all this stuff, and it just kind of hit a breaking point, and especially with her holding Elowen in her arms and not letting her go, because there were a couple times where I went up and I grabbed Elowen and was like, let go of Elowen. I will say I never, not that it even matters, but I'll just say, I never like hit her or touched her or anything like that. Caitlyn. Obviously that's whatever. Anyways, but I was trying to grab Elowen and be like, hey, let go of Elowen, and she just wouldn't do it. And that was like kind of the tick. And the moment was, and this, because it was, I don't even know, I don't even know if it was like training or not, but it was definitely very deliberate and fast. It was like the line had been crossed and my mind was just like snapped. And my gun, so I guess I'll set the scene. I assume that I've seen this scene. She was on the couch, holding Elowen and not letting her go. My gun was on my desk to the left. couple attempts of me trying to grab Valen and her, or, sorry, Ellen, and her not letting go. It was very fast, very deliberate. I went and grabbed the gun. I'm someone who does not keep a round chambered, but it was just very quick. I just like grabbed it, chambered it, grabbed Ellen, pulled her back, and shot. It was very immediate. Obviously, what's big in my head is Ellen yelling. I really hope, and I don't think she saw anything. She definitely heard it, obviously. And that was, and I had conversations with her. She was complaining about her ears, that it was very loud, obviously. But when all that happened, which again, it happened super fast. I mean, it was like training, so where it's just grabbed it, cons, grabbed Ellen. And then right when I shot, it was just immediately, I grabbed Ellen and like ran out of the house. And just immediately ran out of the house and put her in the car. Valen was already in another room. She was closer to the door in her car seat. And so immediately I go run and I put Ellen in the car. And if you saw the layout, there's garages in the back. My car was in one of the garages, but I ran and put her in and I backed the car out to the back door. And I sat for a minute, like talking to Ellen. And for one, I was making sure that nothing had happened to her. And I know her, she was just complaining like, loud. She was saying, that's what she was saying, loud. And so I was trying to check though to make sure nothing else was going on. Like she didn't have any injuries or anything like that. She didn't. I couldn't really check her hearing, obviously. I mean, I'm sure it was super loud. But anyways, then at that point, it was just kind of like, well, now I'm screwed. To where I understood when it happened, I understood, and I still do, I understand the consequences. But anyways, in that moment, again, I'm just a very calm person, and actually I do, like when I do my best is under stress, and so I felt like I had a very clear head, and I was like, well, I guess I want to spend a bit of time with the kids before I have to be here. So what I did was I went through the house, kind of grabbed clothes, some food, water, stuff like that, loaded up, obviously, with what's in my car right now. I loaded that up and left. I don't know time frame, I couldn't say. I don't know how fast that was. Fairly fast. I got the kids in the car, we left. I drove for a little bit just to get out of the area because I figured someone heard something, maybe. But anyways, of sat out and I was kind of being like, kind of talking her through, like, what happened. I was trying to ask her, like, hey, what happened? What did you see? And for her, she was just saying it was loud. And she wasn't saying anything else. And so that was kind of my biggest thing of like, I just really hope she didn't actually see anything. And there was just a loud noise. And she just, like, because of that, she just closed her eyes or whatever. And I was just doing this. It's, I hope. And it seems like that's all it was. I still hope that that's obviously all it was. She was good though. So anyways, I checked on her after driving a little bit, just basically out of Berlin. And then I was just kind of trying to plan what I was going to do. Because kind of immediately I kind of knew what was going to happen. Like, it doesn't matter, I understand, and it doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter if she was threatening, whatever. I fully understand the consequences and what that means, and I kind of immediately was thinking, well, okay, at some point, I'm just going to turn myself in, but I don't know when I'm going to see the kids again, so I'm going to spend some time with them. So I drove. Before anything else, I was kind of trying to think in my head, and I drove to Concord. Once I got to Concord, then I kind of sat with Alan and Valen again, and at that point, they were both good, and they were happy. I hope that there's no issues with this. And there really shouldn't be. Anyway, whatever. I'm getting ahead of myself. When we got to Concord, I was kind of, again, I sat down with the kids and I was like, in the corner, obviously. We were kind of all sitting in the front. And they were all better. They were both better. Like Ellen wasn't crying, and she was good. She seemed happy again. And for my own, like, hey, I just want to record something while we're here. So I did take out my phone, and I just recorded us. Basically, I was just saying I love you to the kids. And I would set it back, and she was saying it to Valen. And basically, I got the recording. And I decided I'm going to tell someone, because there maybe is a possibility that no one heard anything at the house, or nothing could happen, or like, yeah, like no one heard anything or whatever. Anyways, I decided I was going to call my mom. And so I sent her the video of me and the girls in the car. And then I immediately called and told her what had happened. She was obviously distraught. The conversation didn't go very long because I didn't want it to. Obviously, as a mom, she's trying to be supportive, but there's not. Obviously, there's whatever. Anyways, but I basically said, "Hey, you should probably call the cops." And especially too because I didn't want to call her and say, and for her to like somehow be complicit of like me calling her and then her not calling the cops. So which is my point of when I asked you earlier of how did they know? Because I was wondering if it was my mom.
There is a note that you called someone in Minnesota, but other thing. So it's just whatever our dispatchers are putting in. So there is a note that you called somebody, but I'd have to talk to somebody that has a video for it. It's probably a safer something.
So that was basically what I said, and then I said, from here on out, though, I'm gonna go dark because then I'm turning off my phone, and I just want, and I told her this. I was like, I'm gonna turn myself in, but I want some time with the kids before I do it, and then that's when I hung up and I turned my phone off. I ended up driving to, I don't know where in New York. I was getting close to New York City, west. I don't remember. I don't really know New York, but it was like west of New York City. But and I guess there is stuff going on in between too, like just making random stops or whatever, and just like if the kids were awake, hanging out with them. I got down to New York and then just kind of laid in the backseat with the kids for a minute. Got like a couple hours of sleep. The kids have been, they were sleeping on and off through the whole thing, but they were sleeping. But and I just laid in the back and slept for a couple hours, and then woke up, and at that point, that was kind of when I was deciding, because my initial thought was, oh, I'll just surrender at just a random place to her. But then I kind of decided, you know what, I should probably do it in New Hampshire instead of just random, like whatever, whatever. So then I started heading back. And by the time I was getting near, my decision was, well, okay, I know that I'm going through Keene. So my plan was to go back to Concord, which was where I originally stopped and made that call. And so I was like, I guess I'll just go to Concord and just surrender. But I was like, I do want to just sit down with the girls and just have breakfast somewhere. And so as we were just driving through places, I was kind of waiting to go to a restaurant until we got to New Hampshire. And I was even envisioning this. I was like, you know what's going to happen? I bet we're going to stop at a restaurant, sit down and eat, and then the cops are going to like raid the restaurant. I had that already in my head, but anyways, as we were driving through Keene, I was like, well, okay, well, let's see what's going on next. And I kind of mentioned this, but as I was driving through Keene, I saw the Chili's right there, and then saw the police department, and I was like, well, they're probably like eating right there, and they're probably just sitting right there. So I just kept driving, and then I saw the Applebee's, and
guess I can see if Applebee's is open. And turn the corner, and like I wasn't even paying attention because I was just trying to see if the Applebee's was open. So I had pulled into the Applebee's and was trying to see their hours open sign. And so I pulled out to the hours open sign and was trying to like look to see what it was. And then I see a cop pull up behind me. And I was like, wow, I was really not expecting it. You guys are like chilling at Applebee's, okay. But I pulled up, then there was parking spots kind of right in front of me, so I pulled up in the parking spot, and I was like, well, and the officer didn't do anything. I was assuming he was like trying to verify like a license plate or something like that, but he didn't do anything at first. But I was like, my immediate reaction was he was just pulling me over just randomly for something. But then I was like, well, he's gonna run my plates and there's probably something out there. So something's gonna happen. So I immediately, and the girls were both asleep in the backseat. And so I immediately was just like, fuck, like I'm not even gonna get in the hood. And I wanted to, but I was like, I can't move because this was the exact situation I didn't want to be in. Because I didn't want something crazy to happen. Like I didn't want whatever, someone shooting or something happening with the kids right there. And so, basically I just sat there and I turned and I was like trying to talk to Ellen. But then, yeah, immediately came out, like, obviously, pointing at me, yelling at me, putting my hands up, and I mean, obviously, I wasn't gonna fight or anything, it just really sucked that I just couldn't even, like, hug the kids. That was, like, the big thing that was just in my head. But, yeah, and then, obviously, the situation happened, and just, honestly, it directed me back, and I was just yelling, hey, there's kids in the car, just trying to make sure, like, like, just making sure there's kids in the car, I'm surrendering, like, don't get crazy. Obviously.
Well, Dustin, I think you covered pretty much everything. Not quite to the point where I don't have questions. I do have a few kind of like just kind of curious questions and stuff like that to clean up. More or less like time on it. So you talked about Caitlyn flying in on the 27th. You didn't really talk or see her until the 28th. I was wondering what time you got to the restaurant, possibly, because she might have got to the restaurant possibly.
Again, you can verify through text, because they are in text. I probably got there like 4:30. And again, the text was saying what the restaurant was too. I think it was called Harley Jack's. But anyways, I got there right around 4:30. I don't know exactly what time she got there, but she called when she got there. And she called and just said, hey, come out, because she had that suitcase.
It was in between 5 and 6, so
Probably, well, yeah, I was gonna say, probably somewhere around 5:30.
what time do you think you got back to your apartment? There's an apartment house, I don't.
It's a large house that has apartments. So I don't know if you saw it.
I haven't seen
it, but so I just had the first floor of this house that has 3 floors.
What time do you think you got back?
That one I have no idea because we were at the restaurant for a bit. I have no idea. And that one, and I don't even know, I don't think anyone was texting or anything. Actually, I was home at this point, so this was a text that went out that night. And I wish I could remember what I said. I got just look at the text, but it was from my mom, and it was something like, "Hey, is everything okay?" And I think I wrote something like, you know, I don't even know what I wrote. I was saying something about, like, how Caitlyn was at the house. And I think my mom was asking again, like, "Hey, is everything okay?" And I don't think I actually responded to that. But obviously, she knew, Caitlin's at the house, like, what happened? But, so if, to verify, like, timeline,
Check the message.
when my mom texted, or when I responded, is actually probably the better way when I responded, we were home. We were at the
What time did Element's bedtime?
she's, I guess you could say time. But for me, I'm up late. So I'm up. It depends. Like this past week, I was up till like 2 a.m. Pretty much every night. But she was pretty good. Like I say that just because at Element, a lot of the times, if I'm not in bed, she doesn't want to go to bed. So she tries to hang out, but when she understands like work on stuff that like this past week, she was really good at just being like, "I'm gonna go to bed now," and then just goes to bed.
What were the sleep arrangements? I know you said Caitlyn was on the air mattress.
Yes.
What room was that?
So, if you know the layout of the house, I had turned the living room into my room. And there, probably why I was doing these things is irrelevant, but I turned the living room into my room, and the dining room was turned into the living room. And both of those there's glass doors that shut to separate the two rooms, but I just had it open all the time. And so, when you're asking the sleeping arrangements, my bed is right there at the living room next to me. And then I set up the air mattress basically right in the doorway between the living room and my bedroom.
4 kids.
Yes. And so she was right there, and then, what ended up happening was then Valen slept with me, and for the most part, Ellen slept with her.
Okay. The girls have does Element have her own bedroom?
She does. So I had set up like, the girls' room, which, and you'll obviously look at the house, but I had set up like the girls' room, but they've never, like, we tried it a little bit to get Ellen to sleep in her own bed, but she never liked to, and neither one of us ever had a problem with her sleeping with us, and so Ellen has always just slept with us. So like when Ellen and I have been here, she always just slept in my bed.
Is she in school yet? Or homeschool? Getting there.
That was another thing. She had preschool set up there on, so I had got her accepted into the Head Start preschool in Berlin. But right now they're on like a break, so I think they were starting on like the 5th. Starting on the 5th. Yeah, I think it's the 5th. Tuesday.
So then Thursday morning, you guys get up at some point. So I had a couple of questions about that. As far as, I guess basically, maybe it makes sense to ask shot Caitlyn? Was it nighttime?
It was definitely night. Well, I couldn't tell you.
How about like phone calls and stuff around that time? Nothing, nothing got your moms.
I didn't.
At nighttime.
I don't know what her text or whatever. Because I obviously kept saying like, hey, like call Brenda, text Brenda, like. And so she was doing something on her phone, whether her text or
Okay, so she might have been
she might have been texting. I have no idea what she was doing, but I have no idea what her text would have been if she was texting or her phone calls. I don't know.
One of the things you said, so two questions. You said that you were not physical with Caitlyn at all. How about the opposite? How about her physical with you?
I guess I haven't thought about it. I wouldn't. Don't quote me, but right now I'm going to say I do not recall. And I'm only saying that because it probably wouldn't really register if she did ever hit me. I can say even if she did, it would have been like very rarely.
Fair to say.
To where I wouldn't even remember it.
Right.
But I'm just saying that because I probably wouldn't even register it. Look, I was thinking of that in my head to where I don't even remember what was going on. I remember this was in Nevada, but she was really angry about something, and I don't remember what it was.
I haven't seen her in that Caitlyn. Is she taller than you, bigger than you, shorter than you?
She's very small, 5 foot.
Would it be fair to say that if she did, like, physically assault you, like, obviously you don't recall any injuries, but any major type injuries? Alright. One of the things you mentioned was that she was getting aggressive on the 29th, so you were asking her about Brenda coming to pick her up. She really wasn't answering that question most of the day. She finally got to the point where she's saying she's not going to leave, and then and this is one of the things that kind of popped out of my head, is that she's now saying that she's making those threats about taking the kids away. So the threatening to take the kids away, for the most part, was over the phone. Now she's threatening to take the kids away in person.
Yes.
And you said she grabbed Eloise. I was just wondering if you could describe like how she's holding Eloise. I missed that thing, sorry. Eloise.
How she was holding her. So, like full bear hug. So definitely 2 hands bear hug. Which was again why which I said a couple times, more than a couple times. I couldn't even say how many times. More than a couple times. I had, and obviously I couldn't really pull that much because obviously I didn't have Elowen. There's a couple times I did try to grab Elowen. And I was never grabbing Caitlyn, but I did grab Elowen and try and pull Elowen away. But she was full, like, bear hugs, Elowen.
Was Elowen, would you say, was Elowen upset, crying, or was she homeless?
She was crying.
So she's holding her forcefully enough to cause her to cry, or was she crying because you guys were?
You could probably say both. Because she's very smart. She knows, like when like in that situation, I should say this for the record too. During that entire conversation, I might have yelled once, but I think that entire night, I probably only yelled once. But anyways, I was gonna say, Evelyn knows when something's going on. Yeah, so it was probably a combination of going through this.
You did say that Caitlyn was becoming aggressive, and this obviously rolled yellow when the step towards that. She's threatening to take the kids away, like threatening you with calling the police, threatening to take the kids away. She threatened to hurt or harm or do with any kind of threat to physically hurt Element or you. Is it safe to say that, fair to say that she's not armed with any of them at this point? I mean, she's really Element.
I will say I'm very aware of the surroundings. Obviously, I knew my gun was right there.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple knives that are like pocket knives.
Where do you normally keep that for?
On me. Pretty much all the time. Since I've been in the industry, so for the past one.
In a holster or?
I guess it depends on what I'm doing. Like if I'm in the car, I guess you're probably asking about the house. I do have a little like handgun safe that's up on, it's still there. It's up on the safe. It's in a closet in the front room. I'm pretty sure it's still there. It should still be there. It's in the front room closet, which is where I was storing stuff on the top shelf. So like no one. I'm gonna guess that's what you're referring to because my kids get to it.
No, that's it's in the back of me, but that's not really what I'm referring to. I was just curious if it was in the holster of the desk or if it was just on the desk.
At that moment, it was just on the desk.
Any other firearms in those? Do you want to get those? And that you said it was on the desk. I was curious about your training a little bit. Right? We were in the Marine Corps. I'm assuming your disability had something to do with it's through the VA, so it's PTSD or something similar. I'm a veteran too, so I'm not uncomfortable talking about it.
Yeah, well, that's a question I'm hesitant to answer.
How about you?
Yeah, if you're asking about training, because this is like I see where this is going to come into play. But yes, I'm in the Marine Corps right away. Right boot camp, I was battalion high shooter. PMI, the coach, he gave me a jacket because he had never coached anyone who shot as high as me. And immediately I got tagged to become a combat marksmanship coach, which then he did my coach's course. I got top gun in the coach's course, giving out like the recon special forces guys. So that was something I had like a lot of pride in my Marine Corps, even more so than my actual job was just my shooting prowess. But I can see where this is going of like, could it be that I'm endangering Element by what I did? And I would very much say no. And just from that, just my training.
Just to kind of tighten that up a little bit more, you're an expert marksman of some sort of competition. So fair to say you know you weren't endangering Element.
Yes.
Because you're that, like, you know where that barrel that gun was lying at. Where was
I'm
it?
very, like, obviously that's And again, like I said, when everything was so fast, it really was like training, just obviously, you know, it was instant, like everything happened probably in a couple seconds of me like grabbing the cockpit. Yeah. Like, it was very fast, but it was, I guess, what were you asking now?
So everyone just, now I have another question. Training you're talking about is marksmanship training, not like specifically hostile or anything like that. Because that's what was my first thought, was you're trying to remove the element from a harmful situation.
Yes.
So do you have training in like hostage type scenarios? Or is this more of a marksman training that you're referring to?
Well, that would be just from our, well, we would have done that in the coach's course as well. Yes.
You know exactly, I don't want to put words in your mouth and I don't want to assume anything, but I'm guessing, is it fair to say you know exactly where you saw Truck Caitlyn?
I have a very good idea, yes.
Where was that?
I'm
There's a couple
trying to, yeah, I'm
couple
trying to
reasons.
decide if this is a trap
So,
question.
no, that's not, I'm just like, I just want to, it's hard to say you're an expert marksman and that everyone is safe and not know where that round went. So that's why I'm asking.
Well, yeah, yes. It, straight through, I don't know exactly where it hit. I mean, her hair is covering, but side of the head, really unexpected.
And you're right-handed. You fired with your right hand. What type of caliber was, you know, where is it now?
It was in the front, the driver's side door. Yeah.
Any other guns in the car? Keep thought there was, sorry.
No, there's no other guns in there. And I did tell them though, like immediately, like when they were getting me, I was saying, you know, there's, and this was, I was already out of the car at this point, but I was saying, hey, there's a pistol in the driver's side door with a round chamber. Just because and they were, I will say, they were good on that. I was saying like, hey, just don't even touch the door because the kids were right there too. And that was the point I was trying to make. It's like, yeah, like, before anything else, like, hey, there's a gun chamber right there.
Do you have any injuries on you at all, or any, you know, I see like the handcuff obviously like dug in a little bit. Nothing on you. You're not harmed. You said both girls, as far as you know, were harmed and you found them.
I was gonna say no. I was gonna say because which again is probably relevant. I was continually trying to, like, as we were just throughout the day, morning, night, whatever. I was trying to check, like, to make sure that Ellen's hearing was fine, and obviously I don't have any tools or anything like that. But it seemed like it was fine. She wasn't complaining about it, and she said it was fine. So, yeah.
Do you have any?
Yeah, so obviously you've had a super difficult past year, probably. You've done everything you can as a dad, and everything's been against you. You know, she's friendly to keep the kids apart because you won't let her put them on your taxes. Stuff like that doesn't make sense. Obviously, you have to put up with it because you're concerned for the kids. I know you said you wish you stayed in Nevada in the first place because things were good there. You had this feeling in your gut.
Well, it's all right. I'll clarify with Nevada. I do really love Nevada.
Yeah.
It's not that I regret moving to New Hampshire, because for the month I've been here, I like it. Obviously, things are different now, but my regret with Nevada was leaving to follow Caitlyn to Minnesota, because if I had talked to my Nevada lawyer before I had left, then they would have said, oh, it's very simple. She took the kid out of state.
File your paperwork or whatever you have to do.
Yeah, very easy, the kid's going back to Nevada. And so that, and I hadn't talked to a lawyer before, so specifically when I say I regret leaving Nevada, it was specifically for that reason.
Okay.
I wish once she left, that I was just like, well, no, you left, you screwed up everything, no, bring the kid back here. I'm sorry about that.
And then
That was my regret.
And then you follow her in Minnesota. Obviously, you want to keep the kids together. You're doing this long commute from northern Minnesota to southern Minnesota twice a week for the kids and with kids. So you're making all the sacrifice. You finally get to New Hampshire, things are working out, or getting better. You have your own place where it's peaceful. And then she comes to meet you with the younger kid. You're at the restaurant, and she wants to come to your house. And you just have that feeling like the pit of your gut, like, this is not going to end well. She'd already threatened to make false accusations when she wasn't even with the older kid. Now she's in access to both of them. She comes over to your house. She threatens to have you arrested and stuff. And obviously, you had that feeling in your stomach that you didn't want her in there in the first place. Things were not going to go well. She was going to make it worse and worse. I know you had that, we'll call it a regret, I guess, of this isn't going to end well when you guys leave that restaurant and Ossipee to head back to your place. And do you have any other regrets or things you just wish, in the whole grand scheme of things, if things went differently? Just obviously there's such a long buildup of you trying to make it work for the kids and nothing seemed to go your way.
And there is a lot. I don't know if I would phrase it like that though.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong.
I do want to say this, that from every point of our relationship, her biggest issue was never communicating, which she never does to anyone, like her own family. I'm the one talking to her family, and she doesn't even talk to her own family. So it's I'm super big on communication, and she never wanted to talk at all, but then two, of how she would never compromise on anything. And so even small stuff of as an example, so whatever, everyone's got a relationship, so everyone should know what I'm talking about when it's these small stuff like that. But it's all these small things that just add up. And I always felt in my head for years, it was always and again, I said this at the very beginning, I am so much into for a nuclear family to raise kids. Where I'm the mom and the dad have to be present to have a good child, to raise a child.
Yep.
And so this comes into all of my decisions of suck up my pride, whatever, fine. She doesn't want to use the detergent, then I'll make sure our clothes are separate, all of our stuff is separate, I have my stuff, my whatever shirts that I want to do this, and I couldn't wash the kids' clothes, the kids' clothes had to be different, but anyways. But it was just okay, for the kids. And again, it was when she took Valen to Minnesota, and with talking to my parents and her parents, and I was just okay, fine, I'll just do it for the kids. And so that it's, I guess, I'm trying to remember what word or what phrase you were using specifically.
I don't know if you remember regret. I mentioned it earlier, just kind of things you could maybe wish you'd done differently or whatever. It sounds like you
I mean,
did.
immediately, like, again, my immediate regret is leaving Nevada.
Yeah.
Because I should have just stayed there, got the lawyer, and then the kid would have been back, and then obviously that brings up that whole situation. The mom took the kid out of state.
Yeah.
Like, that looks terrible, and we probably would have just right then and there, gone through like a custody case.
Yeah.
And it would have, at the very least, it would have benefited me.
Yeah.
Whether we was split or whatever, obviously, it doesn't really matter, but obviously it would have looked a lot better on my part. And so that was obviously like my first big regret. I don't know, I feel like you're trying to get something out.
I'm just trying to look at the picture. Obviously, you've only been in New Hampshire for a little while. There's a whole big picture. Well, you kind of covered most of it, but there's a huge lead up to this. And it sounds like to me, I'm sure to Mike too, you did almost everything you could, and it was just never good enough. You couldn't send, your money wasn't enough. You fall into Minnesota, but things don't work out there. It sounds like you did everything, the best of your ability for the kids. Is obviously things didn't turn out, I'm sure in New Hampshire like you wanted them to, but.
It feels like you're like buttering me up.
As you see fit, yeah.
Now I have a question.
Well, I was gonna say, I don't know if you're getting at like, do I regret New Hampshire? Which no. I think I would have really liked it here. And again, I was getting everything set up. I mean, because this is gonna come up obviously as the case happens. But I don't even know if I want to. I probably shouldn't even talk about that.
Let me ask you this.
I don't know. I don't regret New Hampshire. And again, I had everything. I mean, Ellen and I we were having a great time. But we had so much. Immediately. I moved here. We have people helping us move. She's meeting friends here. We got to the Head Start program.
Yeah.
I got my whatever. I got immediately got my. Which my driver's license was so temporary one day, I mean, something new again. But yeah, I got obviously the title switched over to all the registration stuff, and just fully getting set up here. And there might actually be texts on this. I'm not sure if it was just conversations with my mom or if there were texts. But there might be texts. There are definitely conversations with my mom of just saying I don't want to call this a success until Valen is here and Caitlyn is gone. And I remember at the very least having those conversations, but there might actually be text too, because we would have conversations of oh, she's threatening this and she's not going to bring Valen now, and now
Yeah.
I'm saying, okay, fine, put them on your taxes. Are you going to bring them here? And then, yes. And it was I was always so I'm not calling this a victory until this is done. And obviously it was not.
Yeah, so I'm now having a question to ask. But I'll give 2 quick questions, and I think we're pretty much done. So, just kind of listening to the last couple minutes of the conversation, I have to ask now, it was never your intent for Caitlyn to come here and kill her. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
And this was...
Because even the way you just mentioned the text message to your mom, I realize what you're saying, but at the same time listening to it, it's making me, now I have to ask that question.
But yes, without a doubt, never any intention to ever do anything like that. Absolutely not.
And the other thing I do, being a military veteran myself, or combat veteran myself, the other thing I do is I put myself in your head, and as I'm listening to you talk, the other question I have to ask is, could you have done anything in that moment where you're reaching for that gun and
from the moment you grab the gun to the moment you pull the trigger, could you, in your mind, have done anything differently to prevent racking around and pulling the trigger? Or is it just set in motion and done? Nothing you could do.
It was, from the moment that it was like, nope. Even like, just even before I grabbed it, it was like, nope. And then, again, it was like, it was almost like, again, to what I'm saying, it's like your training coming out. It was muscle memory, just, not even in it, well, whatever, it's dumb to even say that, because it's not like that's ever happened before, but anyways, yeah,
If you could do it any differently in the last 24 hours, what would you have done differently?
not let her go to the house. Then it's, you're getting in the hypotheticals of, but then probably this, there would have been situations then like at the restaurant, or like, or whatever else, outside the restaurant, or like, again, because she very clearly, and I guess I didn't even say this, she very clearly had, no, I did, I guess I did. Anyways, she very clearly had no intention for Brenda to pick her back up from the restaurant. She very clearly had intended to come back to my place without telling me.
Which is why
And so that obviously factored in to where I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? So I have to drive her to Hampton, so I have to drive her an hour and a half to Hampton, and then drive 3 hours back to my place, and I get, you know what, because I have to call it out, like, are you getting at, do I regret shooting her?
But this is your opportunity to say if you do or not. So if you want to address that too, yeah, please do.
I don't know if I want to.
You knew she was, based on your training and everything else, and your marksmanship, you knew she was dead pretty instantly, I would imagine.
For sure.
So I'm done with questions. I'm gonna have to look at the time, but I want to end the recording. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap up?
Well, I do want to say I'm not answering that last question of do I regret that for either answer. It just feels like that's almost like that's like a trap question. I don't know, like that's
It's your choice to answer or not. I'm not trying to treat you pretty fairly and let you answer whether you want to answer or don't want to answer. And if you don't want to answer, please don't feel like we're trying to get something out of you that you don't want to give us.
and I guess just to end it, my obviously all, you know what, if I can talk more, I'll say it. I have a very, I'll say this because you asked this already, and this is probably, okay. Answer that, and you can answer this first. Can you even look up what my disability is? Can that even get brought up on court?
There's a way to do it, and it has to be in the middle of the situation. So in this particular case, I think it would have already had to been done. So there has to be what's called exigency. And by that, I mean like something like heat of the moment type of thing, hot pursuit type of thing. And there's a way to call, not the VA, but there's some our intelligence people can call and get stuff like with certain exigency. If that hasn't already happened, then there's ways to deal with search warrants and stuff too, but I'm sure it will come up one way or another.
And I don't even know if it even matters. Well, anyways, whatever. I was gonna say, not even with that. I was just gonna say that starting back either 2016 or 2017, I started going into some very severe depression, and I did have a failed suicide attempt. This was in this was before I met a kid. So there was a lot of me trying to find. I don't need to go into the whole thing, but it was a lot of me like what is the point? There's no purpose for me to live anymore. And that was kind of where I was at when I was in this severe depression, and that's when this all happened. But after that happened, then my parents took me in to their place back in Minnesota. And that is when I met Caitlyn. And then when we had our first kid, Ellen, that was when it really was like, this is it. Like this is why I'm here now. And it was, okay. I don't even know. I'm debating whether I even want to say this. Because I think veterans, when you talk to veterans, they understand this. I'll just give this caveat and say it, because I feel like if you're a veteran, you understand this. But I remember our very first Christmas, to where Ellen had, she just turned 1. And actually, this reminds me, because this brings something up about Caitlyn. And we could honestly go down this whole road that I don't think Caitlyn cares about the kids. And that's a whole other can of worms that can be opened up. But Ellen's very first Christmas, Caitlyn left and went back to Minnesota. So it was just me and Ellen. And then, so obviously, but I remember at the time, I was still like, I won't get into the details, but some financial stuff came up, and I was struggling with money again. And so that Christmas, I couldn't really get Ellen anything. And so I took pictures. There's pictures of me and Ellen when she's, whatever, it was her first Christmas, and she's like opening up. Well, I think she had like 2 toys. We had like 2 toys. And we had just this little Christmas tree. I remember being so sad that I couldn't get her more. And I had those thoughts back in my head. because Ellen was there, and she was so happy. That was like my life turning point to where those thoughts ended permanently, and everything was just for her. It was like that was, and I said this at the beginning, to where I have such a strong connection with Ellen just from like that moment, that was the turning point moment in my life. That I was like, those thoughts are just gone now, forever, and they aren't. They are forever gone. Even like I get it now. It's like there was no, I just never even came into my head that I would try to kill myself. Like that didn't even be a possibility. And
Priorities change. It was my commanders used to always throw something like that. Priorities change, and it actually applies to pretty much everything, especially when you have kids.
So anyways, not that it even justifies anything, but it's like, she's just my everything.
I have no other questions for Sergeant Clark.
Okay. Members of the jury, I realize that was a long video, but we'll take the mid-afternoon